Welcome back to another episode of Waters Ironworks. Today we are going to be looking at forging a Triskelion. This was something that I learned how to do recently out in the UK. I took a trip with ABANA, the Artist Blacksmithing Association in North America, where we went out and toured around the London area looking at the work of Jean Tijoux, who was just an absolutely transformational blacksmith for English smithing in general. If anybody would love to learn more about him, drop some notes in the comments and we'll think about doing a video on that. While we were there though, we went out to Hereford College, which has an amazing blacksmithing school, and got some demos and some talks and things like that. One of the smiths there, a guy named appropriately Pete Smith, has been making these Triskelions, and he gave us a quick example of how to do it. I really liked them. It's a fun, easy project. It's got a little bit of forge welding. They look super cool. So I've knocked a few out on my own since I've gotten back, and I figured I'd share with everyone else on how to do that. So let's get started on it. The first thing that we're gonna need, I'm making this out of 1/4 inch round bar. I've got just over 3 feet, 3 feet 1 inch, I think. We're gonna have to put sort of a little bit of an interesting scarf on these, and then fold this thing into a triangle, weld it up, and then we'll be able to start narrowing it down and making it into that spiral shape. So let me get this hot and we'll talk about the forge weld first. So step one here is giving ourselves a bit of an upset. This is a small piece of steel, so it's going to heat up and cool down quickly. Just need to take a few heats to get there. Try and keep those heats nice and short so that we don't get a lot of bending. It's probably going to be 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 heats on each side. I'm going to keep doing the same activity. I'll show you guys when it's done. So we've got the end upset here. It's not real long. We've taken it to maybe 50% of its original, extra 50% of its thickness, maybe a little less. I've also come in and I put some marks in the bar so that I know where my corners need to be. Our next step here is going to be putting a little bit of a bend here so that it's in the right angle, and then we're going to come in and put bends at our marks and bring that around to a triangle. Bend it up a little bit. We'll come around and do the same thing on the other side. I want these so they're going to be facing straight up and down once I've got everything into a triangle. Same thing on this side. Just bending it back a little bit, and hopefully I've done this right so that these will line up, be relatively even once we get it into a triangle. So now I'm going to take a heat here on my first dot and put a bend in there. Find our mark, maybe it's right there. I'm just going to start bending this around. We can see I don't have these pointed exactly the right direction. That's not a problem. We can do a quick twist. This corner is looking about where I need it to be. This one's a little bit big, so we're going to quench this side, come in and tighten that up a little bit. We can see I don't have these pointed exactly the right direction. That's not a problem. We can do a quick twist. This corner is looking about where I need it to be. This one's a little bit big, so we're going to quench this side, come in and tighten that up a little bit. So we've got it hot. At this point, it's pretty thin, pretty easy to bend. I'm just going to grab it with some tongs, twist this around so it's in the right direction. A little bit of flattening things. I think this side is about where I want it to be. So let's go now and rebend this other side. Let me take that down just a little bit more. All right, let's get this bent around the right direction. So I've got these bases pretty close, not exactly where I want them to be. I've got these two bottoms now coming in and touching where I want them to be. I do need these flat against each other. So I'm gonna quench this and then we'll heat up this section and prep it for the weld. So we've got some heat here. Looks like I overbent these things a little bit. I'll just actually tap them together with the hammer. And where I really want these to be is right here, nice and tight, pushed up against each other, and not having one sticking out a lot farther than the other. So these look pretty good. They're pretty even. This is not a complicated weld. We'll toss it in the fire. We'll get it hot. We'll bring it out here. Couple taps, rotate it, couple taps. The bar may get hot on us, so honestly, the hardest part of this might be having some good tongs to hold everything with. Couple taps, and we're going to be below welding heat. I think I've got it tacked together, though. We'll take another pass on that. That's coming up pretty good. We'll take one more welding heat at that and we'll start putting a little bit of a point on it. I don't want this weld to get too long on me, so I think I'm pretty happy with where it's at here. I'm going to put a little bit of a point on here, prepping for when we start scrolling this around. So we've got our triangle. What we need to do now is to start compressing all of these corners and tucking them in so these sides are nice and tight up against each other. And we should wind up with kind of a little space in the middle right there. That's what we're going to be trying to form next. And then once we've got that, we'll start scrolling everything around. Next side, and I'm just going to start bringing this in and smashing it flat. In the coal forge, I can't get a ton of this heated at one time, so I'm just going to go real slow. We'll flip around, go to the next side, start pinching that in as well. Rotate around again, we'll start collapsing this side a little bit. Start closing this up as well. You can actually tell if these things are even or not if you stand them up on their legs, and the middle, I believe this works, and the middle is relatively up, then that means that your legs are all reasonably even. At this point, it's just continuing to collapse these. You've seen what that looks like. I'm going to collapse the rest of them and I'll be back and show you what it looks like once it's ready for the scrolling. We've got this sunken down, so we just have that small little gap in the middle. This is exactly what we're looking for. Two of my sides are about 6 inches. One of them is about 7 inches, so wasn't 100% on with some of my measurements there, but I think that will be okay. Our next step as we do the transformation is we need to start curling these ends. You want to go in order around this. You don't curl the whole thing in kind of one go. We'll get a little bit started on each side and just take our time with it, and it should come out looking pretty good. I've got this nice and hot. I'm not forge welding here, but we will take it to a little bit of a point. And we're just going to start knocking it down. This is a little bit of a tricky process. The challenge that we're going to run into as we do this, and you're seeing it as I'm going here, is the outside of the bar has more distance to travel than the inside of the bar. And so they don't want to bend easily or evenly. So there's a lot of kind of going back and forth, keeping things in line. Just keep it nice and hot while you do this. Correct stuff as it comes up, and we'll be okay. I think I want to finish closing that up. You can see here as I'm doing this, it's messing up all the rest of it. And that's going to be a theme as we go through here. It's just going to be undoing the work that we're doing. So it's a lot of making 3 steps forward, 1 step back sort of scenario. Let's take one more heat on this, curl it up just a little bit more, and then we'll move on to the next one. Close that up. It's important to keep this nice and tight while you're doing it. If it does get loose here in the middle, it basically becomes impossible to fix. So don't let gaps start opening up in these as you scroll them. That looks pretty good for the first pass on this. We're going to come over and do the next one. This is the forge welded one here. I'm going to just keep curling it in the same direction the other one did. Take another heat on there and keep going. It is, of course, a good idea while you're doing this to overheat things and burn it up. Really, the further into the project you are, the better that idea becomes. So you can see this has started coming back to the first one that we've done, opening that space up. Our middle's really opened up quite a bit on us, but it's just coming in and closing these things up and continuing through with it. This next one's going to be the same as the first 2. So I'm going to do that and then we'll take a look at where we're at. We've got our first 3 sort of curls done here. It's looking pretty rough. That's not unexpected at this stage. You can see as we've done this final one, this one here has really started uncurling. We need to heat that up and close that up and take care of it. And then we'll come back to this one and we'll just curl it up a little bit more and keep going with them. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. So let's come to this long one now and curl that up a little bit more. Knock it over a little bit more. Once you've got a reasonable angle on it, then you can bring it here to the face of the anvil. Use that to support the bottom. Curl it a little tighter. Put another heat in that. Actually, let's just move on to the next one. Let's curl this one up a little bit more next. I think I'm going to get that hot again. I really need to keep these from overlapping like they are. So let's get in and fix that. I think the right way to do this might be to put it on the horn, just open it up a little bit. That's going to force those two to spread apart. and I can get them to no longer be overlapping. Right back to it. I think we leave that one where it's at right now. Let's come over and start on this third one. Definitely looking a little rough. Our long one here needs to be brought in some, so let's work on that next. Get this next one hot and do it. Spreading this out a little bit to try and keep those from overlapping. Yeah, really wanting to put some more heat in there. Let's use a pair of scrolling tongs here. Let's open this up a little bit. See if we can get these to slit a little bit nicer, and then come in here and close that back up. All right, let's get it hot again and we'll continue to work around. I've hit here a little more than I probably should have, so it's flattened it out. I think that's encouraging them to slip past each other a little bit. So we're coming in and just trying to tighten everything up here at the end. Be a little tricky to do. I think that's not terrible. Certainly more futzing I could do with it, but you know, sometimes you got to know when to call things. Which I am demonstrating I don't know when that is. All right. Well, this might have turned into a little bit of how to make an uneven Triskelion. I've done a few of these now, and this is the one that has been the most uneven, I think. You can see compared to this one, how we had two sides that were about 6 inches and then one side that was 7. Maybe they were all a little bit more different than that. But because these weren't as even as they should have been when I initially started, the final curls have come out a little bit differently sized, not quite as even as I like. But overall, that's the project. That's how you make one of these. I would say, as you're looking at doing one yourself, really focus on making sure that you get those initial bends in the right place. If you don't, it can lead to some longer term problems. It's a reasonably fun project with a little bit of frustration in it. Everything kind of wanting to go squirrely on as you go through it can be a bit of a pain. It's also a little challenging to hold with tongs, but you do wind up with something that looks pretty cool as an end product. What exactly I'm going to do with these things, I don't know. We'll figure that out. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting and informative and have fun making some of these. Thanks so much.